To the United States, where Donald Trump has threatened to impose 25%.
Will Liberation Day through global tariffs truly free America, or will it drag the economy into crisis? Fierce resistance is already coming from Canada. Ottawa has warned that Canada won't stay silent. Canadians need a fighter to stand up to the president. A strong message from Ottawa has caught Washington's attention. Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England and a top candidate for Canada's Prime Minister, has made his stance clear. He will reject any attempts to weaken Canada. He stressed that an economy is strong only when it serves society. Too many Canadians were already struggling before Trump's policies, and according to Carney, that number will grow unless Canada acts. Carney also revealed that he directly spoke with the US president, making one thing clear: I will reject all attempts to weaken Canada, wear us down, or break us so that America can own us. But what makes him a liberal? And what makes global tariffs a high-risk gamble? In just 2 months, the US president has doubled tariffs on imported goods, pushing the total past $1 trillion. Now, an even bigger plan is under consideration: a universal 20% tariff on all countries exporting to the US. This would affect over $3 trillion in goods. But with such scale comes serious risks. Moody's warns that retaliation could cost the US 5.5 million jobs, push unemployment to 7%, and shrink GDP. Goldman Sachs has raised the recession risk to 35%, up from 20%. This isn't the result of a global crisis. It's the direct outcome of US domestic policies. Outrage is growing among allies, and Wall Street is uncertain. In Europe, the president of the European Commission stated, "We have everything we need to protect our people and prosperity." Europe has the largest single market, the strength to negotiate, and the power to push back. Meanwhile, Canada is moving beyond warnings. Carney calls for protecting domestic workers and restructuring the economy to reduce reliance on US policies. At the same time, US financial markets are in turmoil. The S&P 500 just had its worst quarter since 2022. Large corporations are drowning in uncertainty. A Texas production director with 50 years of experience says he has never seen a market this unstable. The anxiety isn't just about tariffs, it's about the unknown. The White House itself is in chaos. Less than 24 hours before the president's major policy speech, even he hasn't made a final decision. His economic advisors are scrambling between global tariffs, reciprocal tax models, and regional tariffs. The problem? You can't negotiate with the entire world at once. A 20% tariff over 10 years could generate $6 trillion in revenue if retaliation doesn't occur. But economists say it's inevitable. Goldman Sachs has cut GDP forecasts and warned of inflation, unemployment, and recession. This policy isn't just destabilizing the US, it's shaking the world. When a so-called liberation policy throws the economy into chaos, the real question is, who is truly bound? If things go too far, Ursula von der Leyen warns, we don't want to retaliate, but if necessary, we have a strong plan. The EU has already prepared countermeasures, including high tariffs on US goods like cars, soybeans, and even tech giants like Google and Apple. Europe is also forging new trade deals with India, Indonesia, and Thailand, reducing its dependence on the US market. Wall Street is shaken. The US economy is spiraling. Goldman Sachs warns that a 20% tariff could trigger a deep recession. Stock markets are swinging wildly, 1,000-point drops in a single day. Economist Mark Zandi warns that if Trump implements this plan, millions of jobs will be lost. Will this policy create jobs, or will it destroy America's economic future? Meanwhile, chaos grips the White House. CNN reports that even Trump's closest advisors don't fully understand his strategy. The lack of clarity is fueling uncertainty and fear. Prices are soaring, and American consumers are paying the price. A brewery owner in North Carolina says production costs have risen, and they have no choice but to pass the costs on to customers. CNN reports that these tariffs act as hidden taxes, raising the cost of living for all Americans. Across the Atlantic, tensions are rising. Europe didn't start this trade war, but they are ready to fight back. Could this conflict fundamentally change global stability? Don't look away, things are moving fast. Former President Trump isn't worried about the struggles of ordinary people. He dreams of his own sweet victory. In a phone interview with NBC News, he bluntly stated, "I couldn't care less if auto tariffs raise prices." Liberation Day is almost here. Trump calls April 2nd, the day America will reclaim its money and respect. But is this truly a step forward, or just an economic shock that will burden the American people? The average US import tariff was around 8% in 1947. It has been under 2% for years, but is now set to rise back to 8%, taking the country back to a post-World War II era. In the end, the American people will pay the price for this crisis. American cars have become a nightmare of car payments. Trump wants people to buy American cars, but the reality is that rising imports will push the cost of products, especially cars, to skyrocket. How much are the American people willing to pay for higher prices on everything they buy? Autos could become $2,000 to $15,000 more expensive per car, as most parts, materials, and electronic chips are imported from abroad. Tariffs not only fail to protect jobs, but also push consumers into a situation where they must pay higher prices for products. This American car dream turns into a nightmare of installment payments for the people. Canada, on the other hand, is left wondering what it did wrong. Canadians are puzzled about why they are now a target of tariffs after signing a major trade deal with the last Trump administration, which was hailed as the best trade deal ever. There were no issues with illegal immigration or drugs, just trade involving wood and milk. Yet, despite everything, Canada now faces new tariffs. Is this the result of a mistake, or is it a bold move to satisfy Trump's desire to go big? Experts warn that 90% of global trade will be affected by these tariff policies. The rest of the world will likely respond with retaliation, leading to supply chain disruptions and rising costs. Inflation could explode, forcing American consumers to pay higher prices for everything from cars to everyday goods. As the value of the US dollar is threatened, the economy could face an unprecedented storm. This not only harms consumers, but also businesses, forcing them to cut investments and shrink production. The US economy is left in an uncertain position as key industries struggle to recover. Trump's policy approach is marked by chaos. His strategy changes as often as changing clothes. One day he announces global tariffs, the next day he waives tariffs for certain countries, and then he demands car manufacturers keep prices low despite the tariffs. This instability prevents companies from making long-term plans, leading to a risky and unstable economy. Businesses are hesitant to invest, while the public anxiously awaits daily price shocks. Without policy consistency, the economy faces stagnation, and investor confidence weakens, further increasing confusion and financial hardship for households. Without a long-term strategy, these policies do not seem to bring benefits, but only create chaos. Car prices will soar, and everyday products will become more expensive, yet there is no clear plan to build domestic manufacturing. The people will be left to endure high prices, while the real benefits of this policy remain unseen. Without a strategy, the supposed economic liberation will turn into a financial trap. Americans will bear the burden of unrealistic economic dreams, and the US economy could face a severe recession as companies refuse to invest in an unstable market while consumers struggle with rising costs. Trump has now shocked America with a 200% wine tariff, leaving Americans to react to sudden price surges. Imagine walking into a supermarket only to find that your favorite bottle of wine now costs 3 times as much. This is no longer a hypothetical scenario. Trump has announced an unprecedented 200% tariff on wine and champagne from Europe, sending shockwaves through the country and adding to the financial strain of millions of Americans. The decision came in response to the European Union imposing a 50% tariff on American whiskey. Trump retaliated aggressively, imposing the highest ever import taxes on European wines and alcoholic beverages. But this isn't just a trade dispute, it directly affects a crucial voting demographic: suburban middle-class women, a group that played a significant role in the last election. Wine has long been a staple for many Americans, from housewives to business professionals. Now, with this new tariff, the price of imported wine could triple. A bottle of French wine that used to cost $15 may now be $45 or more. Restaurants, bars, and liquor stores will have to increase prices, passing the burden to consumers. Suburban women, a key electoral group, will feel the impact directly. This raises a crucial question. Will this decision cost Trump's support among suburban voters? These voters were instrumental in past elections, and now they face price hikes not only in wine, but across a wide range of products due to the ripple effects of this trade war. The escalating tariff war is already taking a toll on the economy. The stock market has taken a significant hit, with the Dow Jones dropping 350 points in a single day, wiping out 1% of its market value. The Nasdaq fell by more than 1%, signaling investor panic. Economic experts warn that if the trade war continues, the US economy could plunge into a deeper recession. Investors and businesses seek stability, not uncertainty. An ongoing tariff war could lead to sharp price increases, supply chain disruptions, and retaliatory tariffs on American goods, making it harder for US businesses to export their products. The question remains, will Trump adjust his strategy to prevent further economic damage? Despite market panic, Trump refuses to back down. When asked about the economic fallout, he confidently stated, "We don't need their wine, they need us, not the other way around." He insists that America can produce everything it needs, even though the US economy still relies heavily on global supply chains. However, the problem is that the US does not produce enough wine to replace European imports. American wineries cannot meet the surge in demand overnight, and domestic production costs are higher, meaning even US-made wine prices will increase. This means that, regardless of whether Americans buy imported or domestic wine, they will still end up paying more. The consequences of Trump's trade policies continue to unfold, and Americans are left wondering how much more they can endure. While his tariff decisions aren't new, this time they directly impact millions of American households. Food prices have already surged in recent months, the cost of living continues to rise, and wages remain stagnant. Investors are panicking, leading to further stock market losses. Will this be a turning point for independent voters who may now reconsider their stance? The real question is why Fox News continues to applaud Trump while the US economy struggles and allies turn away. Could the truth be hidden from the public? Under Trump's leadership, the US economy has faced multiple crises. Despite his claims of being a business expert, his tariff policies and trade wars led to a recession in 2020. The US stock market saw its worst drop since 2008, with the S&P 500 losing nearly 34% of its value in the first quarter of the pandemic. A Harvard University study found that Trump's tariff policies cost American consumers an additional $7.8 billion in 2019, driving inflation and reducing purchasing power. Unemployment initially dropped in his first few years, but by 2020, it skyrocketed due to the pandemic, reaching a record 14.8%. Meanwhile, Fox News continues to defend Trump, downplaying the economic damage. Despite the facts, Fox News insists tariffs do not cause inflation and that the economy is not as bad as reported. However, real economic numbers tell a different story. One area where Fox News excels in twisting narratives is the relationship between the US and its allies, especially Canada. Despite Trump's harsh stance on Canada, including threats of high tariffs, Fox News claims Canada was forced to concede to US demands. In reality, Canada and other nations strongly resisted these tariffs, leading to tense negotiations. Fox News, however, continues to paint Trump as a strong leader rather than acknowledging the economic damage these policies have caused. Switzerland, a country known for its neutrality and peace, openly criticized Trump's policies at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Switzerland, a nation that has remained out of war for over 500 years, found Trump's aggressive trade stance unacceptable. Typically avoiding international disputes, Switzerland felt compelled to speak out as Trump's policies began affecting global financial stability. Switzerland, with a GDP nearing $800 billion and an unemployment rate below 3%, is an example of economic stability. Unlike the US, which faces increasing economic struggles, Switzerland has maintained financial independence through strategic policies. What made the peaceful Swiss people react so strongly? At the Carnival Festival in Basel, a rare public protest emerged, using satire and confetti to express dissatisfaction with Trump's policies. This reaction was not just about trade, but reflected a deeper concern for leadership that disregards fairness and stability. The world is changing, and as US foreign policy grows more aggressive, smaller nations like Switzerland may feel increasingly compelled to push back. This shift signals a growing global divide where even traditionally neutral countries are no longer willing to stay silent.